I think it's good to talk about the fines.
Good work, Danny. It's on already. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Good.
Yep.
Is anyone all right if I move him a step this way? I'm just getting a pop plant in the background. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's got phones on silent? Yeah. Yes. Do you want me on the other side?
Okay, have you seen Rob?
Everyone's rolling?
Okay, you ready to go?
Oh, one tick. Is Verity here?
Just there.
No worries.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. South Australia's in for 2 hot days, particularly on Christmas Day. We've got hot and quite windy conditions in the eastern half of the state. But that's ahead of quite a significant change coming through during the afternoon and evening, where we're going to see very gusty and strong winds. Occasionally they'll be up to near gale force on some of our coastal waters. So what will be a pleasant, warm, well, even hot Christmas Day is going to be very caught up with some very blustery winds as we see the afternoon and evening move through.
What does that mean in terms of bushfire risk when you've got intense heat and gusty gale force winds?
Well, it's very interesting. In the eastern half of the state, we're going to see elevated fire conditions, and indeed the heat and winds that we've got further across the state may see dangerous fire conditions as well. But what we're likely to see is that the most dangerous fire conditions are after the change comes through. Even as it gets cooler, but the winds come up, we see the most dangerous fire conditions.
What forecast are we expecting Christmas Day?
So we're going for a temperature of 37 degrees, so a fairly hot day.
Are we likely to get any rain with that change, and will that help?
Look, there is not much rain expected. There is a chance of some showers, possibly even some thunderstorms, but they'll be confined to the south of the state, and they're not going to arrive ahead of the change. They're probably on and behind the change. And we're only expecting falls of up to 5 millimetres, so not a great deal.
Is there any risk of lightning with those thunderstorms?
Thunderstorms, as a rule, will produce lightning. They're not going to pose as much a risk as we've seen with previous weather events.
So your concern more about the change is about the winds?
Certainly. The winds will be very strong and gusty when they arrive, and they may come as a bit of a surprise to people who are relaxed and enjoying their Christmas Day. So that first push, particularly as the gusty front comes through, could be quite an upsetting event.
How do these weather conditions compare, I guess, in a fire sense, to the conditions we saw on the day that the Pinery fire broke out?
Well, we had warnings out for the strength of the northerlies on the Pinery Run for the Pinery fire. So on that day, the fires ran some 50 kilometres, and then the front, that fire turned and ran as a front with the wind change. So we're missing that first element, which is the long run in hot conditions. We will have the fires that, if they do form in the northerly winds, can run, but they won't run as far.
Are you expecting any catastrophic conditions across the state?
I think that it's very unlikely at this stage.
So what's the highest fire ranking that you expect, and which areas in particular will you be thinking will be on high alert?
I wouldn't be so bold as to forecast exactly the fire danger conditions at this stage, but I do expect that they're going to be sufficient to cause fire bans, so they will be in the severe at least, possibly extreme. And it's going to be in the east where we're going to see the higher winds during the day in those northerly winds, so that's probably where we're going to see, particularly the southeast, where we're going to see the higher fire dangers.
Is there expecting wind speeds up around the 200 kilometre limit mark, where they saw this week or last week, whenever it was in Sydney, where they had any tornadoes?
Well, those sorts of wind strengths are associated with tropical cyclones or indeed fairly high strength tornadoes, so they're not associated with this weather event at all.
What sort of
what
gusts?
are you expecting?
Okay, so winds around about 40 to 50 kilometres per hour are very likely, possibly less than that in the northerly winds, but approaching that on occasion, particularly in the southeast. But then with the wind change, the winds can be going up to around about 60 kilometres per hour. They may get gustier than that, And indeed, during the afternoon, we anticipate we may put out severe wind warnings. That can be for land gale, particularly in the interior. So as that change pushes up into the interior, typically we can see some very, very strong winds. So land gale can form, and you can get some gusts that get up to 90 kilometres per hour.
What time are you expecting the winds to start picking up and the change to come through?
For Adelaide, it's going to be in the evening, and obviously further west you go during the afternoon. So we anticipate that around Ceduna it's going to be during the morning, but then as it comes through, we're going to see around about midday or so, possibly in Port Lincoln and the like. But it takes a while for it. Actually, I'll retract that. Okay, I actually can't remember. So I'm not going to actually wax on lyrical. I can talk about Adelaide, okay?
So sorry, so for Adelaide, you expect it to be late evening?
No, it's going to be in the evening, so around about 7 p.m.-ish or so. But I do urge people to check the forecast on the day. We are a reasonable distance out at this point in time from Christmas Day in terms of forecast terms. It's just that we've been seeing this in our numerical models for 3 days now. So we have high confidence that this forecast is going to be accurate. Timing exactly when we're not even at Christmas Eve yet is going to be a little bit subject to variation in the models, but the strength is beyond dispute.
Where we've got, high temperatures, really strong winds forecasted, would there be some advice to some people in those high-risk areas to perhaps change their Christmas plans and to be with their properties and in case there is a fire that breaks out?
Oh, look, I'd leave that to the fire authorities to discuss how people should prepare for fires. We do know that the more elevated fire dangers will be in the southeast, but I think that level of advice is more appropriate coming from the CFS.
You said we're still a couple of days out from Christmas Day. Do you expect that there is a chance it could be even hotter than the 37 forecast, given it's 39 tomorrow?
That's always an interesting question to any forecaster. The speed at which the change arrives can dictate what the temperature will reach. So we are confident that it will be in the mid-30s. Can it get higher? It always can get higher, but 37 is a pretty good number.
Donald, those highs or those wind gusts intensify as they head east towards Victoria, and is Victoria likely to get worse conditions than us and New South Wales?
Look, I have been looking at what they're seeing in the winds in Victoria. I think they've got a tougher day than we have. I think the winds will be, in the northerlies in particular, will be stronger through the day. And of course they're going to have a long day and the change isn't going to arrive until, well, overnight. So they've got a long day with northerlies, so it will be a tough day in Victoria in particular. And
how is the anticipated cyclone, if there is going to be one in Northern Territory, how does that impact on South Australia and I guess that Central Australian region?
Yeah, look, the tropical cyclone is fairly likely to form on Christmas Day in the Gulf Carpentaria. If it does trek out of the Gulf, there's no signs of it heading far south, but it will bring welcome rain into northern Queensland. So, and what that means to us in ensuing days is that we do get more moisture developing over the continent, and if we get those northeasterlies feeding down, we can see some more shower activity building into the northeast of the state.
And will that take a few days for that rain to come down?
It certainly would if we had the right conditions, and it's uncertain at this stage as to whether we would have those conditions. So too early to call whether we do get the benefit of that tropical cyclone and the moisture it brings.
And you're saying if it takes rain into Queensland, you can read that while I'm talking.
Yes.
If we're likely to get rain in Queensland, we're also going to Darwin and through the top end will get rain as well? Is that Christmas Day or Boxing Day?
Well, look, Darwin's already getting some good heavy showers. They've got the monsoon trough that's actually crossing the coast at this stage. Mm-hmm. So they're starting to get that build-up of the monsoon rains. But one crossing of a monsoon trough doesn't mean that you've actually broken the season. Australia's monsoon is an intermittent structure that comes and then it can fail for a while and come again. So one tropical cyclone, I wouldn't actually put too much stead in it at this try and draw too much from it at this stage.
So really, when you look at Australia over the next 3 days, we've got some really varied weather. We've got monsoonal rains that aren't breaking the season. We've got rain setting to Queensland. We've got gusty northerlies and strengthening winds in the south and southeast. Is that unusual to have such different weather patterns, or is it just, what's happening?
This is Australia. This is the weather we get. We can be having different types of severe weather conditions from north to south. We've frequently seen tropical cyclones cross the coast in the north and seen hazardous bushfire conditions in the south and heat waves. So it's a big continent, and you can get many severe events going off at the same time. I have a revised timing for the Adelaide change, the estimated change. Somewhere between 3 and 5 p.m. we expect the change, that very gusty, strong change coming through Adelaide during the middle to late afternoon, between 3 and 5 p.m. at this stage, but it's certainly do urge people to check the forecast in coming days to see how we're revising that timing.
How is this Christmas Day comparing to others? Is it one of the hottest ones in the past few years? Or?
I don't have that on me. I do have a colleague who recently did some checks on Melbourne's Christmas days, and they cannot frequently. It's a 50-50 in some respects as to whether you've had a cool change come through and you end up with a relatively cold one, or the change doesn't make it as hot. We've got both on Christmas Day this year in Adelaide. It's going to be hot, and it's going to get quite cool in the evening.
And this December, we've already broken some records. We've had the longest heat wave. Do you expect, overall, the month will have any other significant weather patterns?
Oh, look, heat will be one of those continuing challenges for the country, I think, until we see the monsoon penetrate well into the continent, because the dry soils will continue to drive heat. Certainly December was a record month in many respects for heat. It certainly was the longest heat wave we've seen in any December on our records.
How are we looking into January and February? Is there any relief on the way, or are these hot conditions expected to continue and perhaps be a longer summer, and therefore the fire danger will be extended?
I think the problem with the fire danger is that we started off so dry, and we know that that's actually set the fuels up so that they'll burn very readily. And as a consequence, a normal summer, which is hot of course, is dangerous and hazardous. So I think we are in for a bit of a tough summer.
And how much is that temperature likely to drop with that change on Christmas Day?
Okay, so the temperature change that we'll see, I think will drop quickly into below 20, and it's going to feel a lot cooler, of course, because it'll be so much windier, so we get a wind chill effect. And for Boxing Day, Adelaide's going for 25, so this time of year, that's a pretty cool temperature.
Did you say below 20 or low 20s?
It'll drop below 20 during the evening.
Okay. All right, we might get the CFS state coordinator, Lee. Thank you. Position.
Maybe just he can go that way.
This way.
Probably not as...
Yeah, maybe not that far, yeah.
Maybe one little bit.
Yep, just a little bit more this way. Yeah, straight line. Yep.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay, as we've seen from the Bureau just a few minutes ago, we're in for a significant fire weather for Christmas Day. We're expecting hot northerly winds during the morning and changing to strong southerly winds in the evening, from about 3 to 5 in Adelaide. This means that we're likely to call some fire bans for Christmas Day. There may be as many as 10 fire bans across the state. What that means for people out there is that they won't be able to use solid fuel cooking devices or campfires or fireworks without a permit. So the things that people can use without a permit are gas and electric powered barbecues, as long as they're within 15 metres of their house, and or on a coastal foreshore. As long as someone's in attendance, there's a way of extinguishing any fire, and that there's 4 metres clearance around that cooking device. If people really need to have something other than gas or electric barbecue for Christmas Day, they need to approach their local council to get a permit to see if they can get that to happen. There's no guarantee permits will be issued, so it's worthwhile for people to think about their plans for Christmas Day. It's going to be a hot day, it's going to be a windy day. And even if there's no fire bans, it's still going to be a significant fire day with those types of conditions. So people need to think about their plans for Christmas. They also need to think about their bushfire survival plans, make sure they're up to date, and because there's going to be a change of circumstances for their family on that day.
Does this change the plans for CFS volunteers? I mean, do you expect that they'll sort of be staying close to their areas and on standby more than usual?
Yeah, we've alerted all the brigades, all the volunteer firefighters. We have our regional coordination centres, our state coordination centre ready for the weather that we're expecting on Friday. So we're prepared for this.
Are you putting more resources in? Are you bringing in the sort of the bomber plane from interstate? And what kind of resources can we expect?
No, we won't be changing any of our aircraft arrangements for this day. We've got 10 available in the state, and that should be sufficient. If things do escalate and we do have fires occurring, we'll consider whether we get aircraft from interstate or not.
Will you have any volunteers required to be at station? Will this mean many can't, spend Christmas with their families? Or
No, we won't be expecting volunteers to be at their fire stations, but they're on call. They're on a pager system. If they're needed, they'll be called out to respond to anything that happens.
How concerning is this forecast, given we've already had the Clayema fire and obviously the devastating pinery bushfires? Are you exhausted? Is it a worry for Christmas Day?
Look, it certainly is a worry for Christmas Day. The CFS volunteers in Region 2, which is where the pinery fire was, have been hard at it for at least 6 weeks, so it would be good for them to have a bit of a rest. I think CFS has a capability to cope with this, but it would be good if we could spend some time at home.
Are conditions going to be worse in the southeast and also heading across to Victoria? Victoria facing just as bad, if not worse, conditions?
I haven't heard what Victoria's going to be facing, but potentially it's going to be worse in the southeast. It's going to be occurring later in the day, so the Christmas preparations for lunch might be well and truly over by then.
what advice do you have to people, I guess, in those areas that are at highest risk? Should they perhaps change their Christmas plans, be near their properties?
Look, I think it's important that people understand the level of risk they're going to be facing on Christmas Day and prepare their plans accordingly. It might be that they change where they have their Christmas lunch or something like that, but it's about a matter of being prepared, not being too excited about this, but be prepared for the day. We know there's some bad weather coming through and they need to factor that into their plans.
Oh, weather's out and heat bricks.
Yes, solid fuel devices, cooking devices like barbecue kettles, Weber type things can't be used on a total fire ban day if they're fueled by solid fuel. But if they're gas-powered ones, that's okay.
And is that in the metro area as well, or is that everywhere at this stage?
It depends on where a fire ban's declared for Christmas Day. If there's a fire ban declared for the Adelaide metro area, solid fuel barbecues can't be used without a permit.
And when will we know that?
We will know late on Thursday afternoon. We need to get the refined advice from the Bureau of Meteorology. We get that late in the afternoon and then we'll consider the fire bans based on that advice.
Is the southeast well equipped to deal with a bushfire if that happens?
Yes, they're as well prepared as anywhere else in the state, yes.
And so what happens if it's issued late on Thursday and people are dead set on having a Weber? Can they go to their council, or is it going to be too late?
Well,
Councils will be closing.
It might well be too late, and that's why we've tried to give enough early advice about this weather that's coming so that people can be prepared for that. They could approach their councils now and see if they can get a permit so they can be prepared for Christmas Day.
How real is the threat of bushfires on Christmas Day for you?
Look, it's pretty real. We don't need to have catastrophic conditions, if you like, for bad fires to start. We've had many fires continue throughout all the years we've been in CFS with conditions much less than what we're going to be facing on Christmas Day.
I have a couple of quick questions to ask you about car fires as well. How concerning is the behaviour of some people torching cars?
Oh, gee, that is a real problem because people that do this don't think about the consequences of that fire escaping from those vehicles. They don't have a 4-metre brake or someone in attendance, for instance, so it's a real problem for us.
And how quickly, especially on a hot, bad fire weather day, can the flames spread to grass, those sorts of things?
Very, very quickly at the moment. We've been through a very dry spring, so the grass is very dry at the moment. The bush fuels are very dry as well, so ignition point's very close, so it won't take much for a fire to take hold and escape.
How concerned are you about firebugs or even, you know, accidental actions that might lead to a fire, like, you know, discarding of a cigarette or something like that?
This is always a concern for CFS. We work with police through Operation Nomad to try and manage the arson problem in the state. The accidental thing, I think, is a problem for CFS, but we try to help the community understand the implications of their actions, to try and help them understand the risk they face and the activities they undertake. And we urge people to reconsider what they do on total fire ban days, because once a total fire ban day is declared, we know there are weather conditions there that we are unlikely to control a fire very easily. So we would ask people to reconsider their actions on total fire ban days.
So if these are those conditions as well for a while, since when have we had bad conditions like this with wind gusts and dry conditions? Round about.
2 weeks ago, we had
No,
conditions.
I mean at Christmas.
Oh, Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, so I can't remember any day like this since I've been in CFS.
And that's how long?
29 years.
So this is potentially the worst Christmas day for CFS in 29 years?
Well, look, I'd hesitate to say that. I can't remember a day that's been as bad as this since I've been at CFS.
Thank you.
Lovely. All right, so we've got SES Acting Chief Officer Dermot. Barry, would you like him to reposition, guys? Or what would you
Actually, maybe we get the journals on the other side. That way, you're sort of looking that way.
Yeah.
Don't you
face
straighten
them?
on
No,
top,
look to
that's
you
it.
guys.
They're going to put me for a meal.
I know.
Oh, harden up, Kate.
I know.
We ready? Yep. Hang on. Okay. As we've just heard, there is potential for some very strong winds to come through on late on Christmas Day, and our concern is around many people who'd be planning outdoor events and the potential for that wind to impact on those events. As we know, outdoor furniture, marquees and those kinds of things are very easily grabbed in those big winds and blown away, and the potential for people to be hurt is real. On top of that, we've had a prolonged period of extreme heat, and with that we know a lot of trees are already heat stressed, and the SES has been very busy responding already to a number of tree-related incidents. With these strong winds, we would expect that tempo of operations will escalate, and we would urge people to be conscious of their surrounds, to be aware of where they are in relation to trees, and certainly not to park under trees, or to be conscious when they are under trees of large limbs and those kinds of things.
Have you got extra staff on standby, particularly for the afternoon when we expect this change to hit?
Yes, we do. We've actually pre-populated our rosters to make sure that we have a number of staff available, certainly for SES operations, but also to support the Country Fire Service or any other agency who may need our support should things turn nasty.
Is that a tough ask for Christmas Day?
It's always a tough ask to ask people to work Christmas Day, but invariably it's part of our how we operate. We're a 24/7 operation. People know that when they sign up for the job, and they just appreciate that sometimes that's just what's going to happen.
So are they on standby, or they sort of be required to be on station, or how does that work?
So for our staff, they'll be on standby. We do have a 24-hour duty officer who will actually be on active duty that day, and depending on what the conditions look like, we will then either increase our roster to make sure that we have enough people. Our volunteers are always on standby. We've already alerted them to the potential for this weather, and they will be, I guess, more conscious of their requirements as the weather evolves on the day.
Do you typically get many call-outs on Christmas Day?
No, fortunately. Generally, we'll get some tree-related jobs occasionally because we do road crash rescue. We also see some terrible events around the Christmas time as well. But generally, it's a reasonably quiet day for us.
Thank you.
I'll just ask about beachgoers. With quite strong up to gale force winds expected on the waters, what's your warning to beachgoers?
Again, people need to be conscious that when this front comes through, there will be strong winds associated with that. Many people will have beach umbrellas, beach towels and tents, etc., and they'll be exposed to this weather. They need to be conscious of it, and ideally either pack up prior to the weather hitting or be ready to pack up and go as this front comes through.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so the last one we've got is Assistant Commissioner Scott Vales. Scott, you might talk about marine threats for those who might be on a boat or...
We also be talking about Operation Nomad.
Sure, you'll ask.
Assistant Commissioner's the rank, is that right?
Acting Assistant Commissioner.
Yep, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Thank you. Our message for today is around water safety. As we've heard, there are some strong winds coming through Christmas Eve and into Christmas Day. So we ask people to carefully consider any boating trips they may be making, take into strong consideration their level of experience and also their weather forecasting so that they very well understand the conditions that they're going out in. Some people may have bought a new boat for themselves for Christmas, and they really need to consider whether Christmas Day, with the winds that may be coming, is the right day to take that boat out.
How concerned are you about firebugs? Obviously, how many more police will be out monitoring in these weather conditions?
We'll have police patrols across the state. Operation Nomad will be operating and will be actively patrolling high-risk fire areas. We will be visiting, depending on the fire danger ratings, people based on their risk of being an arsonist, and some of those people may be visited on Christmas Day, depending on how we assess the level of risk that's present.
How many police will be actually on duty on Christmas Day?
I can't tell you the exact numbers. We have police across the state. We're in a business of not sleeping when other people are perhaps enjoying themselves and sleeping. It's a 24/7 business policing, so we have police patrols out there across the state who, as well as nomad duties, will be performing normal police functions.
So I guess people shouldn't relax thinking it's Christmas Day and they can get away with something they might otherwise not?
That's correct, yes. Christmas Day poses just as big a risk as any other day of the year.
I'm just following a couple of car fires. How concerned are you about people going out there and lighting cars on fire?
Oh, very concerning. I mean, that's a criminal act. The implications of it against the person whose vehicle it was, some of these are stolen vehicles. The impact on those people who now don't have a vehicle for Christmas, and the impact on the community in terms of should that vehicle cause a severe fire, the impact is considerable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just get on the spokespeople just up here near the screen so that the TV crews can go and
What's Lee Miller's
State coordinator.
state coordinator?
Acting Chief Officer.
No.
Oh,
that's
sorry,
state,
sorry.
State coordinator, CFS.
Yep, great. And Dermot is acting chief officer?
Yes, I was
And regional director John.